with 4 different focus groups. So that's some information I'm going to be providing you tonight, and we'll look at that. And that information is just to assist you as you're thinking about, what characteristics are going to be the most important um, in your next superintendent. So we'll use those characteristics then, suggest you use them as you're writing interview questions, and we'll kind of start that process tonight a little bit. I'll use those as we screen your applications, and I'll share those with the people that help screen. And then as you conduct your interviews and make your decisions, we encourage you to keep those characteristics at the kind of top of mind. And then lastly, once you have a new superintendent hired, we suggest that you share that work, the information that's been collected and those characteristics with that person so they know, what's important. And if there's an area that, maybe they're like, well, I'm okay in that area, but boy, this is something this is really important. Well, maybe between now and the 1st of July or now and the end of my first year, I need to be dedicating my efforts to getting better in that area. So we'll help you with all that. And last thing is answer any questions you might have about the process and just kind of make sure we're all still on track. So, all right, with that, I'm going to kind of jump in here. I mentioned that next time I come, we'll be screening applications. You'll get copies of every application that's completed. We screen them 2 different ways. One way is there's people like me all across the state. Oh, okay. Okay. You bet. Yeah, you want me to come
We
up there?
could seat him right over there if you want.
I'll sit wherever you want.
Okay, will that work for you?
Sure.
Or I can move this over there, that might be just as easier.
Let's just do that, then I don't have to move all my stuff, if that's easy. All right.
Okay.
Is that better?
Ryan, can you hear me better now?
Hello, test?
Yeah,
One,
that is, yeah, that's coming in better.
All right.
all right. So, you'll get copies of all the applications. I'll screen them 2 ways. One way, there's people like me from all across the state. There's 7 or 8 of us that do searches for KASB, and they will review the applications and they'll provide some feedback about your candidates. That's especially helpful if there's somebody that maybe is working in a role kind of, closer to them geographically. They may know some things firsthand, but they'll also have the ability to look at all the information in the application. I will also engage 2 practicing superintendents, successful superintendents, who have something in common with your district. It might be geography, it might be demographics, it might be size. I'll swear them to secrecy. We'll give them access to your applications, and I'll meet with them separately, and we'll review all your applications together, and so we get multiple sets of eyes. When I come back on the 16th, I will share with you, here's all your applications, but here's the ones that we recommend that you interview, and here's why. Notice I said recommend. That doesn't mean you have to follow our recommendation. You guys are the board. You can ask questions. You can say, let's interview, you recommended these 3. We want to interview 2 of them, but that one we don't think is the right person for us to interview. We'd rather interview this person. That is totally your purview. As a matter of fact, generally I leave that meeting after going over all that stuff and let you guys talk without me, because I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to put any pressure on you, or you're going to hurt my feelings if you don't follow a recommendation. Okay? We're working for you. We try to give you the best info, but we recognize nobody knows your community better than you do. So, so at that meeting, you'll determine what candidates you're going to interview, and then after that, Mr. President, you get to reach out to those candidates and schedule the actual interviews. Call those candidates and schedule those interviews. Interview day, I think, Robin, did you make copies of the schedule? Go ahead.
This schedule has been used previously. This is just a guide, we can change things. I do have a recommendation at the end of the day. It would allow me to give you an idea from my experience.
So in your search handbooks, on page 22, there are some sample schedules. You have even better than that. You have a schedule your district has used before with somebody who was involved with it before that has some firsthand experience with it. So I would suggest to you too that the schedule that Robin passed out will be a great starting point for you. Typically, these interviews are half-day or full-day affairs for the candidate, so, and the board's involvement is in the evening. All right, so there's no involvement for you during the day, don't have to take off work, anything like that. The reason these are a little bit longer than a typical interview, or why you don't do multiple interviews in a day, is because this candidate is interviewing you as much as you're interviewing them. Oftentimes, they'll want to bring their spouse, their family, they want to see the community, they want to get to know a little bit about what's going on, so it's not just usually a conversation, an hour or 2 hour interview with the board only. And if you kind of look at the proposed schedule, there's those things, there's tours of the community, tours of your schools, a brief reception, with faculty and community, an opportunity for, people to get to see the person who's interviewing, that kind of thing. With that said, it is up to you how you choose to conduct your interview day. The only thing we tell you is, be sure you're consistent with all of your candidates. Don't have this schedule for one candidate and a different schedule for somebody else, right? And again, I would suggest to you, since you've been through this and Robin has experience with it, that's probably pretty close to what you ought to be thinking. Did you have a change you were recommending?
The only change that I think would be helpful would maybe be, at the 3:30 time slot, it's a reception to meet with faculty and community. I think it might be better to have it here at the district office instead of at the middle school, but we can serve at your convenience, so whichever you prefer, or if you want to have that reception at an entirely different place, that.
I wouldn't see a problem having it here. I thought we did have it here. Oh, we did it, but it's been 8 years, so.
I think having it here would be fine.
Is it big enough? I mean, it's pretty well attended?
It
Yeah.
was not previously, but.
No problem with that.
Yeah, you probably won't have huge attendance at it, but it's good to offer the opportunity for people who are interested. And they're usually kind of a come and go thing. Don't sit your candidate up behind the table and make it an ESPN press conference. Give them a few minutes to say a few words to the group that's there, and then it's kind of a come and go. If people want to come up and introduce themselves and ask questions, they can do that. But it's not really another interview. So, dinner that night, you'll probably bring in here as well, is that?
Yeah,
So that dinner becomes an executive session with the board. If they bring a spouse, I would encourage you to invite the spouse or the guest to have dinner with you. And I'd invite Robin, she's doing a bunch of extra work for all this. But it's not an open to the public thing, and it's not an open meeting, okay? If you go out to a restaurant, you would need to do it in a place where there is a private room, so you're not, mixing with the general public at a restaurant. So bringing food in is a great idea.
yeah, last time we did it here, and I think that was, don't you think so, Sean? That worked out well, and
Well,
honestly, you learn more about your candidates during an hour-long meal than you do during the interview
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, it's a good way to see them in a little less formal setting
They
than the
relax-
actual interview.
Everybody relaxes and just kind of visits and.
Right. So, once you get done with dinner, you'll end that executive session and you'll open up a new executive session. And in that one, you'll only invite the candidate. So it'll be the board members and just the candidate. So, spouse or guests won't be part of that. And then, Robin will hang around because like she does when you're normally in executive session, but they won't be part of that interview. That's just you and the board. And then, we typically will recommend you interview 3 to 5 candidates depending on your pool. And we would tell you after your last interview, plan to spend some extra time talking about your candidates and hopefully making a decision. On the other ones, we would suggest to you that you don't talk about that interview, don't talk about the candidate from yesterday, wait until the end and talk about them all there.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
I
All right.
remember it being a long week, but
Yeah, it was.
it's a good process. I mean, you're basically scheduled in here every night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think we interviewed 4 last time. I don't know what day we skipped, but it was kind of a long week, but it's a good way to do it. You really get a good feel for each person, I feel like.
Did you pick one that week?
I think we did.
Yeah, I
I
missed the
don't,
last one because it was Kim Mock from Sublette.
did we interview Scott very last?
Yeah, Kim was the last one, but Scott was his third one.
Oh, yeah, that's true, that's right.
Kim was the girl from Rolla.
Yeah.
How many applicants do we got?
You currently have 3 applications that have been submitted.
Can you share those names?
Not tonight, no, sir.
And you're expecting more in the before February 8th?
I've had at least one other person who has talked to me specifically. I'd be very surprised if they don't apply. And I can see that there's another person that started the application that I think would be a good candidate, that I'm hopeful. And then just history tells me that, usually that last week, we'll see some applications come in. That's fairly normal. With that, I will tell you that it's not like it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you'd have had 20 applicants for this job. And I don't think you'll get that.
Can you see if they've applied elsewhere? Or is that even possible?
I can see if they've applied through one of the KSB searches, but we don't do all the searches, so that they could have applied in other places. All right, so anybody, this isn't something you vote on, but is there anybody that can't live with this schedule? Are you okay with the change?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna proceed. That'll allow Robin to get working on some of the logistics, and so we'll proceed with that. Thanks for your work on that, Robin. So another thing that we'll start tonight is your interview questions. So if you look on pages 30 to 32, there are some sample questions that have been vetted. So our attorneys have reviewed these questions, said, yeah, you're legal asking those questions, all that kind of stuff. After we develop our characteristics tonight, tomorrow I'm gonna send Robin a report with what the board has come up with. And once you get that report and you know what your characteristics are, then I would suggest that you use those characteristics to go through here and identify the questions that you think will help you find out, does our candidate meet these characteristics, or any other questions that you think are important. We suggest you plan for a 1 to 2 hour interview, and typically that's 14 to 21 questions. So a way we kind of normally do this is we ask each board member, take those characteristics, take this list, identify the questions that you think are important, write the numbers down, and choose, let's say 18 questions. Okay, you pick up to 18. and then send those numbers, 1.3, 2.4, 2.9, send those numbers to Robin, and she'll combine all that together, and then she'll pull out the questions that are the most popular. Does that make sense? When we meet next week, or not next week, but next time, we'll have that list of questions then in executive session, because we don't want to share what your interview questions are publicly, right? We'll have that list, and you all can look those over, and you can finalize the questions that you'll ask. Sometimes you have two that are almost identical, and you go, oh, we don't need both those, or hey, we don't have anything in this area. We'll also add a question for you, just kind of a general question at the beginning. Tell us about yourself. Just an opportunity to let the candidate kind of settle in, feel comfortable. Again, you can end up keeping that, or you can toss it, but we'll put one on there like that.
Does your website have this list that they have access to, so
No.
they know what may be coming at them?
No, but candidates they're gonna Google, and they're gonna have an idea what kind of questions they're
Yep.
gonna get. Now, once in a while, we'll have a board say, hey, we want to ask a question about this, and it's not on the list. Okay, that's fine. If you have something, please send that to Robin sooner rather than later, because if you have a question like that, then we'll send that through the KSB attorneys to make sure that you're not gonna have any legal issues if you decide to ask that question, okay? So maybe dog ear that page 30, and then tomorrow after you get those characteristics, I think we felt like if Robin had your questions by the 11th, February 11th, then that would give her time to have that stuff ready for us when we get together on the 16th, okay? If you get it in sooner, you get extra credit, and plus you probably won't get the reminders that board clerks usually send out when they're waiting for something, right? So, all right, pages 27 to 29, I'm not gonna go over, but that'd be some good stuff for you to read, just kind of hints about actually doing the interview, that kind of stuff. When we meet in executive session next time, we'll probably split the questions up and decide who's gonna ask each question. So you guys can, again, you want to be consistent with that. You want to make sure that you're keeping the experience as close to the same as possible for the different candidates that you'll have. Last thing before we jump into the characteristics, if you have any changes you want to make to your superintendent's contract, now is the time to do that. Okay, so you don't want to wait until you've picked out your candidate and then start thinking about, well, what's the contract going to look like that we're going to offer them, okay? Because the way this will work, after you have that last interview and you choose your candidate, president's going to call them probably that same night and offer the job. And if they say, yes, I want to accept, we want to be ready to send them a contract right away. We don't want to go, oh, well, I called the attorney today and the attorney's on vacation for a week, so it'll be a week and a half before we can send you a contract. We don't want to let that kind of thing happen. So, if there's any changes that you want to make, we should be thinking about that now. You'll fill in blanks as far as what the amounts are, the salary amounts, that kind of stuff. And next time I meet with you, I'll bring some salary comparisons with other districts to help you in kind of, as you think about the range of what you want to pay. And again, that'll be an executive session discussion topic for you to decide what you actually want for those amounts in the contract. But if there's other changes to the contract, I'd say, Mr. President, if you would work with Robin on that, and if there's anything that needs to be changed, let's get that to the attorney and get a draft of that before that next executive session. Okay? All right. Okay, any questions about any of that? All right, Dr. Ruda, are you still there?
Still here?
I haven't put you to sleep?
Not even close.
All right. So the first thing I'd call your attention to is, you guys got this earlier, and I think Robin provided a hard copy for everybody. So these are your survey results. I'm not gonna spend a huge amount of time on this, but I'm gonna go over this with you, hit some highlights. You had a decent response, about 173 total responses. What we see on these surveys is everybody doesn't always answer every question, okay? But I think we had 173. This first page is just kind of a quick overview. So you can see the majority of your respondents were parents or guardians of students. Your next biggest group was teachers within the district, then employees within the district. You had 9 folks that were just community members. They don't currently maybe have a connection, family, child in the school or grandchild in the school. And then one of your administrators from the district replied. You can also see kind of the amount of, the longevity of people's relationship with the school district. And smallest number was those less than a year. Next smallest was 1 to 3 years, and then 4 to 10, 11 to 20, and 20 plus are all fairly close. Pretty good balance there. We ask about 7 questions, I believe, and so you kind of see those summarized here. And these questions will be familiar because I'm going to ask you these same questions when we go through our activity to develop the characteristics. Top 5 personal qualities and top 5 leadership qualities. Top 5 identified experiences that people think are important. And then what is a single quality or characteristic that is most important. And you can see from the summary, honest, trustworthy, strong integrity, those were things that kind of emerged from your survey. You'll see more details on that if we look at the subsequent pages. So page 2 has kind of a written summary. Page 3 has that demographic data, and then and page 4. And then the first real question there is qualities and characteristics desired in new superintendent, question 3 on page 4. So I'm going to show you how to read that table. They get to kind of rank these things. And so the average ranking is if we take I ranked them 1, the next person ranked them 3, the next person ranked this 5. So the average would be 3, okay? The top choice count is how many people on the survey said this is that this particular response should be the number 1 thing. Okay, so it's interesting on this first one. The lowest average ranking was for a kid's first personality. Okay, but only 46 people said that was number 1. 58 people said personal strength to do what's right regardless of circumstance was the number 1. Does that make sense? So it's kind of 2 ways to look at what people said was the most important, right? That's the difference between them. Again, I'm not going to go over every detail in the survey with you. Question 4 is leadership qualities, and question 5 is experiences that are most important. Question 6 talks about the most critical issue that the next superintendent should understand and support. What kind of, and then you see a little summary of the answers there. And then question 7 is the single characteristic or quality. And if you look on page 8, you'll see the verbatim comments for question 6. If there was something that identified an individual staff member, I redacted that information. You didn't have this, but I would redact if there was profanity or vulgar comments. You didn't have anything like that, but unfortunately, it's not unusual for us to see one or two of those, but to your credit and the community's credit, that was not the case with yours. So the things that you're seeing that are redacted were somebody was either named or it was very obvious who was, who was being referred to in the comment, so. All right, any questions about the survey? No questions? Last thing I'll tell you about the survey is, just because you read a comment doesn't make that true. It probably is somebody's truth, but again, even sometimes people put things down that in an anonymous survey that, so I always caution people, just because it's there, you have to decide how much weight you put to that belief. When you see things coming up multiple times, probably tells you, maybe there's more to that.
How does our community involvement compare to other districts our size?
Yeah, I would say pretty comparable, I know you guys did a good job getting the survey. I always wish we would have more responses, right? It's people's opportunity to provide some input, but I think it's pretty comparable.
You can also, a parent guardian is also considered a community member too.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, even though, parents and guardians are definitely part of your community, yeah, yep. And I will say, like, the percentage of school people to your outsiders, that's really consistent with what, you're more than twice as many community people as school people that responded, so that's good, and that's a good sign about your community involvement, and you're gonna see that community comes shining through in your focus group stuff too, so, all right. So, when we did the focus groups, we had, I believe we had 54 or 58 people participate in the focus groups. We had 4 different groups. We had a group of staff and admin. We had a group of parents and community members. And we did have a balance there too. We had mostly parents, but a couple of the people that were there were community only. And then a group of high school students. I think we had 18 high school students. They were a great group to work with. That was the funnest part of my day, except for all the hospitality that Robin showed me throughout the day. And then last we had teachers. Was our last group, and I think we had 12 teachers. So we had pretty good balance. Student group was the largest group, and I'm gonna walk you through now kind of what their responses were, and then we're gonna do a very similar activity, and I'll point out to you how you can use survey information, you can use this information, or again, as the board, you get to decide how much weight to put on things. You can go back to your personal experiences, your knowledge, as you come up with kind of what you think are those most important characteristics. So, do they have this one? Okay, so I'm gonna be looking at this one now. And the yellow question, describe the most important leadership and personal qualities you would like to see in the new superintendent. So, so when I do these focus groups, I put people in groups primarily 3. Once in a while, it's a group of 4 or a group of 2, but we were mostly 3s. Give them the opportunity to brainstorm answers to these questions, and then I force them as a group to agree on what the group thinks are the top 3, and then we report all those out, okay? And then I take that information from all of the focus groups and I combine it again with that idea that if something's coming up more often than not, maybe it's more important, right? So you're gonna see the things in order of frequency that they came up. I think I got everything grouped into the right place. But once in a while, there'll be one down below that's standing by itself, and it maybe could go with something up above that has a number beside it. That would just be because I missed it. but you are seeing everything that was responded, okay? So even if it only came up one time that whole day, it's on the list with no number beside it. It only came up once, okay? So, 5 folks talked about being approachable or approachability, 5 that were good business leader, budget-minded, financially savvy, 5 that felt being present and visible in the district and community, 5 thought someone who was accountable, that was a personal or leadership quality they would want to see. Involved, open-minded, integrity, those were all 3, hardworking, community-invested, community-driven, supportive of admin group, teachers and staff, and then relationship builder. So those were the things that came up with some frequency. And then if you go on down through the list, those are things that came up one time.
Were these attributes like given to them, or would they come up with them themselves?
They came up with them themselves. So I gave them the question. They were in a group of 3, and I gave them 4 or 5 minutes to brainstorm. And then I asked them to narrow their lists and report out their lists.
This is all 4 groups combined?
This is all 4 groups combined, yep. Okay, second question is describe the strengths or good points of the district the new superintendent will need to understand and support. So we know whenever there's a change in leadership, things are gonna be different, right? There's gonna be some things different. This is people's opportunity to tell us, but what are those things that are great, that you don't wanna lose in your district, that you wanna make sure the new leader understands this is something you're really proud of in your system. So 13 talked about community involvement, tight-knit community, community support. It's not unusual for community to show up here. I have not had a district, you guys are probably my 20-something search. I have not had a community that it was this high in your community. So I think that came through as something very important from the focus groups. A pre-K through 12 approach, and one of them referenced a program you have called 363 Connect. I think the kids told me that was a program where students can go from the high school, can go work and mentor with a student from one of the elementary or middle schools. And that was something they thought was a real strength. Great culture. One of the comments was about real positive culture, but it's kind of like we have a rural way about how we do things, and that sets us apart from others. So I went ahead and listed that. 3 felt your admin, strong building leadership team. 3 felt teachers are very good, teachers are trustworthy. 2 referenced your district strategic plan, and then again we had these other things that came up. Now you will notice there's a whole bunch, and I grouped them all together on these extras. Students learn important life skills, students prepared for future, students interactions K-12, student diversity, students have input. There's a whole bunch that are about students, and I thought about combining all that together, but then I also thought you might lose some of the detail because they're not, if I just put students, or I tried to summarize that, I thought you might lose a little bit of that. But you got like 7 of them here that are specifically related to students. And I see that as a positive from these groups too. Third question that we work on is describe the most critical needs that the new superintendent will need to understand and address. So sometimes something's broken and it needs fixed. It comes up here, that's totally okay. And I told the groups, this is your chance to share those things, if you know of things like that need attention. But it doesn't always have to be something that's broken. Sometimes organizations have things that, hey, we're doing okay with it. Maybe it didn't show up on those strengths, but because we're just doing okay with it, but it's critical. If we don't keep doing that, we can't accomplish our mission. So it's not just broken things that'll show up under here. I don't want you thinking this is the question for just broken things. So 13 came up with building maintenance, facility plan, and building and grounds. 5 came up with declining enrollment. And 4 came up with recruitment and retention of teachers and staff. 3 on students' mental health. And then we had 2 on superintendent, present and approachable at all times, good curriculum support, remain current, traffic before and after school, snow removal, might potentially create some dangerous situations, and then parapay, felt like parapay needed attention. So, and then again, you can kind of see all the singletons that arouse out of there. And the last question is, what single characteristic or quality would separate two highly qualified candidates? What's most important? 9 talked about investment in community involvement. 6 just referred to investment. They weren't specific about it being in the community. It was perhaps being invested in the district. It wasn't more specific. 5 were on relationship builders. 3 being approachable. 2 need to live in the district or the community. 2 talked about experience in all levels of schools. 2 talked about reputation or record from former positions. 2 talked about backbone. 2 talked about being present or visible. And 2 talked about sincerity. All right. That was a quick speed through, so you'll get to look a little more in depth at these as we go through our activity. Okay, any questions before we jump into that? Dr. Ruda, I don't think we emailed you these questions, but I'll read the question. And I think we're gonna have you jump in with a group, right? How we gonna
He's
do
with
this?
this group.
Yes, he'll
Yeah, you can just jump in.
I did not send those.
Okay.
I could take a picture of it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
send it to him.
Okay, let's do that. Robin's gonna send you a picture of the questions.
I'm
I'm gonna
also
sneak to the
looking
restroom right quick. I'll be
as
back.
we speak.
Hey, Hot
There you
Rod,
go.
this is Sean.
Thank you.
What's the score at the games tonight? Have you heard?
No, the girls were up, they were up 12 when I turned it off there when I was pulling into Topeka. I haven't seen what the guys are.
I didn't. I knew there was.
Would you like that back?
You bet. Got an extra? Yep.
Was Ryan's, so.
So I'm gonna walk you through this activity, question by question, so you don't need to necessarily write anything down, you're not gonna turn anything in, we're gonna report all this stuff out orally. I'm gonna have you work with a shoulder partner, so you'll work in pairs, and one person will probably need to take some notes, all right? But it only needs to be legible enough for you to share out what you wrote, so, so we're gonna start with this first question, and I'm gonna ask you, the question is, describe the most important leadership and personal qualities you would like to see in the new superintendent. So you can look back, this is the same question that the focus group participants used. So you can look at that yellow question and you can see what others have responded. You can look back into the survey data at the questions that were in there. I think it's question 3, maybe, that 3 and 4 that align with that one. I'll have to look back. So I'm gonna give you a few minutes to kind of look at that, and for you guys to determine what are the top 3 for you as a pair, okay? Again, you gotta agree on what you think are the top 3. And then we'll go around the room and we'll share those out. And we're gonna do just like we did with the focus groups. If something's coming up multiple times, then that might tell us that, maybe it's more important. Make sense? So, have at it.
We thought it was obviously pretty important to be present, visible, community involved.
Okay? All right, group two,
Yeah, we also felt like community involvement was the most important.
okay? Group three. Gotcha. Okay, let's stick with one. Yep, okay. Next one?
Good business leader, budget-minded, financially savvy. Agreed with that.
Budget-minded, financially savvy, good, good. Okay? All right,
Yeah, we also have business savvy, budget-minded.
all right, man. You guys are making this easy, because when you double up, I don't have to misspell it again. I just put a tally mark by it. Same thing? All right. Jackpot. All right, last time around.
We kind of bundled this into the first one, but it goes back to involved.
Okay?
Yeah, Curtis and I agree that it's really important to have good support for the leader over their admin staff to build good culture.
So help me capture how to say that. Good support with
Supportive admin staff,
supportive of admin staff?
correct. Admin and staff.
Got you. Very good. I like that. All right. Live in the district. All right. So guys, let me read back what I think I heard you say. 3 that were on budget-minded and financially savvy. 2 that were community involvement and present. 1 with experience. 1 with involvement. 1 was supportive of admin and staff. And 1 live in the district. Get that? All right. Well, that was pretty easy. Let's go on to the next question. So that next question is describe or list the strengths and the good points of your district the new superintendent will need to understand and support. All right, same thing applies. You can see what others have kind of, the work they've done. Remember, these are those things you're really proud of. These are strengths. And I always tell the focus groups, sometimes these are things you can reach out and grab. So it might be, hey, our facilities are a strength. We can reach out and touch those or grab them. But sometimes it's things you can't touch. The quality of our staff is amazing. The culture that we have is amazing. The community support is amazing. Okay? So it can be things you can touch or things you can't touch. Make sense? All right, take the time and
place.
All right, group three? All right, and group four, or one?
Our small community, gotta stick together, stay involved. Keep them involved.
All right. All right, back to you, group two.
Yeah, we also feel like we have great culture right now within our schools.
Very good. Community involvement, okay.
Great admin,
Great admin.
repeat that one.
Holy cow, you guys, good work. Last time around.
Yeah, Curtis might hit on this one, but the strategic plan that the district wrote, finished it up this year, late last year. Curtis really feels like that's a big pillar for,
Spent a lot of time putting that
For-
together.
for the
and I think it
superintendent.
just Kind of outline of what
Yeah, strategic plans can,
like is important.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I've seen it and I've read it. I don't know it by heart like Curtis probably does, but it seems like a good pillar for success going forward.
yeah, excellent tool to help your district move forward, so, yep, good point. All right. Strong admin? Okay,
Strategic plan
two. All right, get the
Con-
last word, guys.
continue to and build on the education of the life skills, real world jobs.
All right, let me read what I think I got from you. 3 that had great admin, 2 that had community and community involvement. Teachers need to retain great culture within schools, strategic plan, and continue to build on life skills education. Good with those? You guys are making this easy. All right. So question 3, describe or list the most critical needs that the new superintendent will need to understand and address. So remember, this might be things that need to be fixed. Something's broken, needs to be fixed. But it also might just be, this is something that is just essential for us to be able to be successful. May not be broken, maybe something we're working on improving, or it's going along pretty good, but it's critical, okay? Have your 3 and let me know when you're ready. All right, let's do the question 3 here. So Sean, let's let your group start on that one. Facilities. Okay, group 1.
Building maintenance on facilities and grounds.
Okay. Are you okay with me kind of incorporating all that together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
You guys are the same? So I'm just gonna list that as facilities, maintenance, grounds. It'll make sense what that is. All right. Buildings, okay. It's in, okay. Sean, next time around. Declining enrollment.
We almost put that one, so I'm glad you guys did. Recruitment and retain teachers and admin.
You wanna say staff, or do you wanna just say teachers and admin?
You can say staff.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, and the last time around, Sean?
Student achievements. Making sure we hold our students.
Okay, excellent.
This is kind of on top of that. Opportunities outside of the classroom for student achievement and success.
Okay, and you guys get the last word.
More vocational opportunities.
Excellent. Let me read back what I got. I got 3 with facilities, maintenance, buildings, and grounds, 2 with declining enrollment, recruitment and retention of teachers, admin, and staff, student achievement, opportunities outside of classroom for student success, and more vocational opportunities. Yep. Yeah, they're related for sure, aren't they? Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we're gonna switch gears here a little bit. I'm gonna let Robin bring the phone back so Ryan can hear me better. I think it made it the first time, but just barely. Yeah. All right, Ryan, we move the phone back closer to me. This last one, instead of doing this one with the partner, you're gonna do this one on your own, okay? So where you've been sharing with your partner here, please don't share. And the question is, what single characteristic or quality will separate the best candidate from the other highly qualified candidates who apply for the superintendent position? So, hypothetical here, you got 2 fantastic candidates, they're great in everything. What's gonna make you choose candidate A over candidate B to be your superintendent? What's that one thing that is gonna be the difference maker, that one thing they're different in? And that's what this is. Does that make sense? Just, yep, and again, you got some help if you wanna look at what others said for ideas. But I'll give you a couple of minutes here to kind of think about that, and then we'll let everybody share their response on that. And Ryan, the question again was, what single characteristic or quality will separate the best candidate from the other highly qualified candidates who will apply for the superintendent position?
An involved, invested leader.
I'm gonna say experience with, knowing how to run the business.
Yeah, I've got a culture builder, invested with, admin, teacher and staff.
Like a half a paragraph. I didn't really know how to say what I wanted to say, but I really feel like our district needs to strive for all of our kids to be able to survive in this horrible world that America's becoming after they graduate, or whether they go to college, or if they go straight to work, or if they join the military, or whatever. But what I wrote down was strives for after graduation preparedness for life for every student. For every student, maybe. We need to have a program that makes everybody successful. Experience over budget and school.
Running the business, you did that government. Ryan, did you? Our demographic. Did that capture 'em?
Yeah, I've got a question, if can I ask? it?
Sure, absolutely.
When you say experience, and Sean, you said experience, and Ryan, you said experience, do you mean strictly superintendent experience, or do you mean just, what's that?
This is a big district.
Sure.
Lots of kids, on our budget, it's expensive budget. He's gonna know how to, we can't hire, it's hard to hire, and I take this back, one time, our principal from Buckhorn, she was superintendent over at Buckhorn Principal. She came here and she was lost. She was lost. Overwhelmed. I don't know if you remember her, you remember? Headset Lee? She was lost. And I mean, from a district. So taking from a 1A school district to running a 3A school district or a budget of ours is it's cumbersome. That's experience. You gotta know what you're doing.
So like somebody that would be in in an admin role of a 5 or 6A school, is that experience enough?
That'd be experience.
Okay.
I mean, they would understand
Business side of things?
the business
Sure.
side. $500,000 a month, we might have $200,000 a month. Budget is.
We need somebody smart enough to keep those dummies in line.
Sure.
Make you look good, that's the superintendent's job, right?
We need somebody to tell us what
Yeah,
to do.
and I'd like to see somebody that's been a superintendent before, or at least an assistant superintendent, know the ins and outs, how to run the business, how to manage people.
Do bigger schools have assistant superintendents?
Yeah.
Okay.
6A, 6A, 5A.
Does Ryan have anything to add on the experience?
Yeah, I mean, when I say experience, I mean, I'm not going to say it's a disqualifier that somebody's coming in or applying that does not have a superintendent. But I definitely think, particularly in the environment we're in education and where we're at there with finance, they better have a very strong understanding of finance and what that means. And at a principal level, I don't know that you're fully grasping district level finance. You have building level finance. I think until you get into an interview and you start to have those interactions and discussions, you'll get a pretty good gauge of where the individual's understanding and knowledge is at. So, not a disclaimer that they don't come in with superintendent experience. I'm looking more about how it is they answer and what the breadth of knowledge and understanding.
And one of the things I'll share with you is with KSB, we do some programs, like one of the programs we do is called BOLD. It stands for Business Operations Leadership Development. And we'll take a cohort of 25 to 30 people each year, and we'll 5 or 6 times throughout the year, we'll go on a Thursday afternoon and a Friday morning. We'll go to 2 different districts. We focus on business kind of topics, bond issues, budgets, all different kind of outsourcing services, all different topics, and we'll bring in speakers for them, and they get a couple of days of professional development out of that. Well, probably our biggest demographic is brand new superintendents, first, second year soups. We'll get a few assistant soups that specialize in that, but we'll also generally get about a third of our group that's principals that are wanting to become superintendents. So they may not have been in the chair, but they're already trying to do things knowing exactly what Ryan said, that this is important, and it's something that they're gonna need to have a handle on when they move into the superintendent job. So they may not have had the position of that, but they're making efforts to try to be prepared for that when they get that opportunity.
Now, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm green at this, and Jarek and I have 0 to offer at this, but you board members that are very seasoned, and Ryan himself, and Dave's been in superintendent, can a superintendent make a decision that's financially huge without bringing it to us and us voting on it? Okay, so
Like you buy a car, I think his budget is 40,000.
gotcha. So,
But we do rely on his recommendation.
gotcha.
He's being referred by Mr. Davis a lot too, right? Mr. Davis is telling him, can I recommend to him, but we can't.
Correct.
He's got to go back to Mr. Davis to run the books and tell him, maybe you shouldn't do this, or maybe you can't do this. Go to the board with it.
Absolutely.
I mean, financials are important. Backing from our business manager as well. Like, do other districts have a business manager? Like, I mean, across the board, I mean, smaller districts maybe not.
1A, 2A districts, it's not uncommon that the clerk does a lot of that kind of stuff. 3A, you probably have some kind of a director kind of, and when you get to 5A, 6A, it's probably an assistant soup role. Yeah. And there's a lot of support on the school finance side of things. Our State Department is really good. If every year we would submit our budget. I mean, I had a CPA that worked for me in Garden City, and she would take our budget to the State Department every year and go over it with experts from the State Department. And if there was something that they said, hey, did you know if you change this, it would mean an extra $50,000 in your district. I mean, they would look at it from that standpoint, or go, hey, if you do this, it's going to create a problem for you. So there's a lot of support that is available for somebody, and even seasoned people that have been doing Kansas school finance for years and years and years are silly if they don't take advantage of that support.
They're still doing the audits, right? There you go,
Yeah,
There's a lot of people looking at the numbers.
right.
Yeah, well, I think one of the other things, I mean, Steve speak to this better too, but, I mean, even
that's a great point. And once we start looking at your candidates and kind of know experience levels, we can talk about, you know, what options might be available to support people. Because I will promise you this, no matter who you hire, they're not gonna be perfect at everything. I mean, that's, and I will tell you that your chances of getting a seasoned superintendent are gonna be slim. I mean, unfortunately, that's the reality of, right now, of the pools in western Kansas. Like, 20 years ago, you'd had 20 candidates, 3 or 4 of them would have been totally qualified, and you would have picked from those 3 or 4 who is the absolute best fit for us.
That's why, if everybody started with experience, we wouldn't have it,
Right,
you know?
good point.
I think that's why I wanted to get everybody's opinion on
That-
And one thing, you know, he came up with,
Well, gentlemen, that's the only thing I have for you tonight. Tomorrow, I'll get Robin a copy of a report that'll have all the work we did tonight. And then, remember, we're asking that the homework you do is once you get that, you start looking at interview questions, thinking what makes sense there. Get that stuff back to her by the 11th. And then, Mr. President, we want to do, make sure you work on the contract with Robin. And if we have anything we need to change, that we get that to the attorney, so the attorney can bless it, get it in the right format, so you guys have that available. And then,
Roughly how many questions?
I think you want to pick as a group 14 to 21, so if each of you would identify, say, around 18, then that should allow us to kind of come up with a good number.
Are those questions something you handed out there tonight that I just need to swing by and get when I get back?
So in that search book that you got, I think the samples start on page 30.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay, if you have any trouble, reach out and I'll help you find them.
Is the current contract, is that public knowledge or just for the board?